So last night I was fixing to get a snack around like 12 midnight, and the radio was on, and it was this Mexican Christian channel on the radio. A very popular pastor known by the name of Paulino Bernal, and he was talking about World War III and the Rapture, right? And he's saying that World War III is around the corner, and you have Iraq at war with China, and China's at war with this, and America's at war with North Korea, and all this, right? World War III mumbo jumbo. And as I'm making my ham and cheese sandwich at 12 midnight, the radio's still playing. He's saying that once World War III happens and the bombs are falling from the sky, that's when the rapture is going to happen. And that's when all these my new King James Version Christian retards are going to go to heaven, right? And it was fun. It dawned on me. It was funny to me how. And it's just me being generous. Let's just take it from 2009 to 2019. That's a 10-year gap. Okay? And in those 10 years, it's just been endless everyday war. America has been at war with numerous countries on the other side of the world, with troops stationed all places all over the world, bombs being dropped during the Obama administration, during Trump administration. It's been since 2009, since 2019. Like, it's been all kinds of famine, death. Kids dying in the fucking streets because they have nowhere to go. All kinds of chaos going on, right? For the past 10 years straight, every day. Child hospitals always full of kids with leukemia and cancer, and there's not a day that goes by that a child's hospital isn't empty. They're always full. And it just dawned on me, I was like, it's funny how in Paulino Bernal's version of his God, because he talks to God, that all the dictators and leaders of the world, when they decide to start World War III, that's when the rapture is going to happen. So people like you, people like me, or extended family members, if we're going through poverty and diseases and murders and tortures and being incarcerated while doing nothing wrong, just the worst of the worst, right? If people like you and me are doing it and we're caught in those positions, that's not enough for God, the King James Version Christian God. That's not enough for God to say, you know what, I'm going to start the rapture now, and we're just going to get all this bullshit over with, and I'm going to hit the reset button because apparently I'm not that good at my job. So I'm just going to hit the reset button now because it's enough is enough. It doesn't matter when we're in those situations of extreme famine and pain and suffering. But what's going to set God off is when people like Kim Jong-un and, the leaders in Israel and China and Russia and Putin and 45 and all that shit, when they start fucking up, that's when God's going to say, okay, enough is enough. It's time for my raptures. It's time for my rapture. Like, how does that make any sense? And of course, it's me being generous. It's decades and decades, and I'm just using one decade from 2009 to 2019, and the unimaginable, unfathomable pain and suffering and death that occurs every hour of every day in that 10-year span. But that's not enough, right? For God to hit the reset button and say, you know what, it's my rapture time. No, people like you and me, we don't get to trigger God to make that distinction. It's once Putin, 45, you know, Kim Jong-un, et cetera, et cetera. It's once they start fucking up and dropping bombs, that's when God's going to say, it's time for the rapture. Yeah. Because that makes total, perfect fucking sense, doesn't it? God's only watching 30, 40 dictators around the world. And that's when he'll push the reset button. But as long as people like you and me are sure, I'm fortunate. You're probably way more fortunate than the kids that are starving and dying off in Venezuela with no electricity, or the famine that's just happening in Africa, all over the fucking world, right? I'm not even trying to put myself in that light as if I'm suffering on that level, or people watching this are suffering on that level. But just know that your average Joe and your average Josephine, we're not the ones that are gonna trigger God into hitting the reset button for my rapture. It's the 2030 dictators that are playing this chess game. That's when God's gonna make his decision. Yeah. Right.